We'll see if this works. Sorry, I've been so distracted here. I think we're ready to kick it into gear. I don't see, let's see, we've got, hello everybody on Zoom. I need a sound check. If you'll give me a sound check, I would appreciate it. Can you hear me? Toyin, can you hear me? Awesome. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. We're live. We're live and we're early. We're like 5 minutes early, so we're good. What's for breakfast? Chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A. Nice. I had the sausage at McDonald's with water. So we went live a little early today. I've been having some difficulties with my technology, but I think I have it working. We will see. We will see. If you guys have any questions on Zoom, feel free to chime in. We've got a few minutes before class starts. We're going to talk about consumerism, and I'll get into that in just a few minutes. Still doing a tech check. It looks like it's working. I've had a sound check. So we're going live to Facebook and also YouTube. Expecting a special guest today, which is why I dressed up. I usually wear a t-shirt and a, fishing shirt. It's not true. Some days I do. So do most of your professors wear suits? Ties? No? How about blue jeans? That's not a normal thing, blue jeans. Either jeans or a suit and tie? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wearing jeans and a button-down shirt with a vest with some really expensive alligator boots. Who cares, right? I drove my motorcycle to work today. So on a day like today, that's what I do. I love days like today when I get to drive my motorcycle. It's a Goldwing, a Honda Goldwing. And when I started teaching this course, I mentioned that I drove a motorcycle, and one of the students in one of the first classes I taught, he raised his hand and he said, "Hey, Professor Munchbach, did you know you can take the express lane for free with a motorcycle?" I'm like, no way. You guys know what the express lane is? So where I live in Friendswood, and when I get to the interstate, there's an on-ramp to the express lane right there. And where I get off to come here, there's a express lane exit right here. And so I'm like, no way. If I can ride that on my motorcycle, what that means is, one, I don't have to pay. And no matter how bad the traffic is, I'm going one way with the traffic, and it's sweet. So then when I go home, I'm going with the traffic, and the traffic has been terrible lately going home. But when I take my motorcycle, I'm on the express lane going home without fighting traffic. So on days like today, when it's not too cold, if it's not raining, if it's not 100 degrees, I'm on my motorcycle, and it's free, and it's awesome. I love riding my motorcycle. It's like a sport, It's like if you could take a snowmobile to work every day, that'd be kind of fun, I think. Or a jet ski, or any kind of vehicle other than a boring car. So, yeah, I got to do that today, drive a cool motorcycle to work. Okay, what time do we have? It is only 9:59 a.m. We're early. So, my wife wouldn't let me drive a motorcycle. We agreed that when we had kids, small kids, and college to pay for and all that, I wouldn't drive a motorcycle. But when my kids all graduated and got out on their own, I have 3 children, And then we paid off our house, and we were feeling like we were pretty financially independent. She's like, I told her I came back to the table to negotiate that. And of course, she remembered my commitment all those years to not drive a motorcycle. And so she gave me permission. Yeah, I don't want to. So driving on the express lane is actually safer because there's only one lane. You're not passing. You don't have people passing you. So it's actually, all in all, I really appreciated that student telling me that, because I probably wouldn't have realized for a while. So every day that I can. There we go. Traffic. I don't know why I'm playing this B-roll. It's just B-roll. It's better than looking at me, right? That's the tops of buildings. I used to be a fire claims adjuster, a commercial adjuster, and one of the things I had to do in Hurricane Ike, I had a lot of claims with some of the buildings downtown, and you always have to go on top of the building to inspect for damage from hurricanes. So I did a lot of this type of work. But that's got nothing to do with today's lesson. Okay, I don't see any questions. A whole lot of folks are joining us on Zoom. Welcome, welcome if you're on Zoom. Hey, Hayden, welcome. Good morning. Okay, it's still not time to really officially get started because we give our folks on Zoom 5 minutes of grace. And by the looks of attendance in the classroom, we could use a few more minutes, right? For those of you who are here on time, thank you and welcome. But we'll wait a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about consumerism, credit cards, how they work. We're going to set up this week, and I'll start talking about this week's assignment. For those of you who are here, you get the benefit of having just a few minutes to talk about this week's assignment. So in your financial planning portal, note to all of you, currently, if you have not yet registered for the Bayrock Financial Planning Portal, you're gonna suffer in terms of points. And here's why. Because when I leave today, before I post the assignment for this week, I'm going to go in with my team and we're going to make some adjustments to your planning portal. So currently, when you sign up and you register for that Bayrock Planning Portal, you have a very limited number of data cards, which means you have a very, very limited amount of data in your financial plan. So by the time you do your capstone assignment, you're going to have exponentially more data, meaning more data cards, meaning more information in your financial plan. But for that to happen, I have to go into your planning portal and I have to make some adjustments. Me and my team will go in and we will open up a whole bunch of data cards so that you can then go and complete those. So this week's assignment will involve probably 3 or 4 additional data cards, depending on, you can use as many of them as you want, but this week's assignment, you're going to need to have access to those extra data cards. So if you have not yet registered, when my team goes in to update your data portal, your financial plan, if you haven't registered, we can't update your portal because you haven't registered, okay? So for those of you who haven't done that yet, you're going to go try to do the assignment this week and you're going to be like, I can't find this, that, and the other thing. And I'm going to be like, yeah, did you watch the Zoom meeting? Because I made the announcement that if you haven't already done it, you're going to miss some points, like a big 0 for the assignment, because you can't do the assignment because you didn't do the first step, which is to register and set up your portal. Okay, does that make sense for those of you who are here? I'm going to assume, since you're shaking your head yes, that the people who are not here, if they were here and they heard that, it would make sense. And then I'm just going to tell them, go watch the Zoom meeting. I'm not going to explain it to them again. So for those of you who are kind enough to share things in GroupMe, for the students who need to ask that question, you know what to share. Thank you. So there we go. Let's see. I think it's almost time to get. Oh my goodness, we have a whole bunch of more. We have a lot more folks joining us via Zoom. So I'm curious, how many of you who are joining us via Zoom? What did I just do? I just went to the wrong place. Those of you who are joining us via Zoom, how many of you are from the afternoon class? And why is my phone ringing? My phone's ringing. I put it on airplane mode, I promise. Can you guys see that it's ringing? Yeah, they can see it. You can't see it. So I'm curious, chime in, those of you who are here on the chat, how many of you are from the 11:30 class? Can't imagine you're all from the 10 a.m. class, but I don't see any chats. No questions, so let's get started. So today's assignment is called Consumer Awareness, or Consumer Beware, or Buyer Beware. And it's really, this is one of the lessons that in the past we spend a lot of time working on credit. I want you to understand credit. I want you to understand how it works. Today, though, it's not really so much about understanding credit in terms of how it works. Today is like a big warning lesson. It's like the lesson that I want you to learn so that you don't make the same mistakes I made and the same mistakes I see so many people making. So today's class, today's lecture is really just a warning. It's about credit, how it works, and I'm going to teach you how it works in a way that I hope will make you just as angry as it made me when my wife made me learn it. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight is this idea of buyer beware. Have you guys ever heard that? Buyer beware? No? Caveat emptor? No? So I have a lot of letters after my name, which means I had to study a lot of law, a lot of consumer law, a lot of stuff like that. And buyer beware is a big, if you're in a lawsuit, a product liability suit of any kind, it's one of the first principles of law that you have to understand. And it basically says that if you buy something, you need to be aware that you probably don't know as much about the product or the service as the person selling it to you. So you just need to understand that. You can learn more, but you're starting out at a disadvantage. And so that's a normal thing that everybody has to deal with, and that's part of something that is involved in every product and every service. But I think it's especially part of this product called credit. And so if you don't understand how credit works in terms of being a product, then after today, you have no excuse, because you're going to see how it works for you, for the industry, and how you can be a target, and how it can really cost you a lot of money. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Let me see if we have anyone else needing to jump in. I think we're good. So now I'm not going to be distracted with letting folks in because time has elapsed. So I want to teach you a story today teach you a lesson today by telling you a story. It's going to involve a guy named Billy and Sally. And Billy and Sally are two people that I met when I first started teaching this class. I had the opportunity, well, actually what happened was I was trying to figure out, what am I going to teach? You read the story about my friend Sam, right? And Sam helped me understand that if there was one thing I could teach that would make a difference, it would be teach the students the law of spending and saving, or saving and spending, however you want to think of it. And that law, the first law of personal finance is what? The law of spending and saving, which is what? What does that law say?
Save more than you spend.
Yes, save more than you spend. Spend less than you earn. It's really not save more than you spend. That's a good idea. I would try to do that. But it's really spend less than you earn. Because if you spend more than you earn, what are you spending money with? You're spending money with debt. You're leveraging you're leveraging your income. You're basically playing with fire. but people do it all the time because, well, you'll see why. And Billy, it falls into one of those categories where he spent. So this story that I'm going to tell you is about a guy named Billy. Billy and I met at a Firestone when I was trying to figure out, what am I going to teach? And so it just turned out that when I met this young fellow, I took my car to Firestone because I needed to get some repairs done. I needed to get some work done on my transmission. I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to be a master mechanic. So that's how I paid for college. I went to trade school, and I could do pretty much anything that needed to be done to my cars, but there were a lot of things that, frankly, I'd rather pay someone to do. And anything that involved transmission fluid, I would rather pay someone to do because I don't like transmission fluid. Plus, it's always underneath the car, and it's generally more complicated than I care to get, and who knows? It's better to pay an expert. So that's what I was doing this particular day. I needed to get some filters changed in my transmission. I needed to get the fluid changed, and it wasn't that expensive. So I took my Lexus to Firestone, and that's where I met Billy. And Billy was this guy, young guy, who he was driving a Ford pickup truck. And I happen to love Ford pickup trucks. I've never owned one, but I've always thought if there's any vehicle that I'd like to own, it would be a Ford F-150. Because being a mechanic, a master mechanic, I worked on a ton of Ford F-150s, and guess what I discovered about Ford trucks? They're built Ford tough. Isn't that the commercial? Built Ford tough. Well, they are. The suspension, the engines, Ford engines they're okay, but it's the suspension, the truck. What makes a truck is the suspension. And suspensions can be pretty expensive, but the Ford truck had a unique twin I-beam suspension, and it was a great vehicle, well designed. And I don't know if you know this, but Ford pickup trucks, Ford F-150s, are the single most popular vehicle ever sold in the history of automotive. So Billy had one, and he was pretty proud of it. And that's how we connected. Billy and I connected because he had a Ford pickup, and he started telling me his story. And his story involved his pickup truck and how he got his pickup truck. He got a good deal on it, which was cool. And so I'm thinking about this class, and I'm thinking about all the things that I want to teach you. And so that's when Billy met Sally. Sally was actually the service person who you would talk to when you take your vehicle into the shop, right? You guys know what a service manager is, right? Do you know what their job is? Because remember, for years and years, I worked in the automotive industry, so I'm not just making this stuff up. I know how the business works. And so Sally, when he met Sally, she's the person who takes your order, asks you questions, and I'm asking you now, what do you think Sally's job was?
It's like delegating people to basically look at your vehicle and tell you, okay, you need to get this, you need to get that.
Yeah. So the service manager, her job is to delegate the activities related to checking out your vehicle, inspecting it, writing an estimate, and then helping Sally understand what needs to be done to make your vehicle ready. So here's the deal. Here's how Billy met Sally. Billy had this pickup truck, and he worked at Marathon. Marathon is a plant, and I used to have a little business with vending machines. Do you guys know anything about vending machines? It was inside of Marathon. I bought this business from someone who wasn't doing so well. And so I got it at a pretty good price, but it involved 19 vending machines, soda, snacks. And so it was something I did kind of just to make a little cash, because it seemed like a good deal, and I wanted to build this business and give it to my son. He ended up not really enjoying going into a plant wearing all this, what do you call it? hazmat suit, helmet, glasses, and it's 100 degrees outside, which makes it like 115 degrees inside because they're not air conditioned at Marathon. So anyway, this is where Billy worked. He worked at Marathon, so we had that in common. And I'm asking him about his truck and his life and where'd you go to school. He went to San Jac. He did a little 2-year deal and then went right to work, lived at home, making good money, living at home. And he bought this pickup truck for a very low price, but it needed tires. And he came to Firestone because he had a coupon to get 4 new tires on his Ford pickup truck. So being a mechanic, teaching this class, having these machines in Marathon, I felt like me and Billy, we were going to be the best of friends, right? We hit it off. I hit it off with most people, but it was a fun story. And all the time I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting because here's Billy with a coupon to buy 4 tires. How much do you think you could get 4 tires? This was many years ago. I started teaching this class about 11 years ago. So let's just, even today, what do you think you could buy 4 tires for on a Ford F-150?
With the discount without
200. So either way, with or without the discount, what do you guys think? Chime in. I'm looking for new messages on Zoom. So Jose says 300. Jose over here.
more.
This Jose says more. Jose, yeah?
Yeah.
So we got Jose here on Zoom. He says 300. Jose in class says more. What do you guys think?
So he's got to get good tires. I'm guessing he's gonna get
So, that's a great question. Is he going to get good tires? So, I don't know.
Off-roading,
I don't know. Let's.
The discount could go to 300 or 500. Well, it's been a while since I bought tires.
It's been a while since you bought tires. That's good.
Unfortunately, so
Somebody, let me just tell you, if you bought tires today for a Ford F-150, it's going to be more than $300. I bought tires for my Lexus, much smaller tires. I bought them a couple months ago, and I paid $800. So, but this was a few years ago, and Billy had a coupon, and so he had a coupon for under $600 to buy the tires, and I thought that was pretty cool. Thinking about teaching this class, thinking about coupons, thinking about managing money. Here's this guy, he's living at home, saving a bunch of money, working at a plant, making a lot of money, and he's got a really good deal on this pickup truck, and now he's trying to save money buying tires. I love the guy, right? I'm like, you are the poster boy for my class, Billy. So then he meets Sally. And again, Sally is this very, very professional person whose job, yes, was to help Billy figure out, what do you need, these tires. And Sally did something, and I'm watching Sally because another thing that you may not know about me is I've worked in sales all my life, pretty much, since I was a little kid. I'll tell you my first memory of money one day, but I was selling the Detroit Free Press when I was 11 years old, and I won awards for selling.
Bicycle.
Yeah, I delivered the paper on a bicycle, but when I went out to sell it, I don't really remember. I think I just went knocking on doors. Because if I could get a new customer, we had, one of my first memories of money was the Detroit Free Press. I was a paper boy, and they had this contest. Whatever paper boy could get the most new customers would get this prize, this winning prize, and it was candy. And I won. And it was this huge pile, like Reese's peanut butter, every kind of candy bar you can imagine. And I put it on my bed, and my bed was covered in candy. And I won it because I was motivated to go out and sell. So as a result of that, being in sales, when I watched Sally work, I was pretty impressed because yes, her job as service manager was to help Billy get the job done, but clearly she was an expert. She was a professional. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you guys about today is how this all works, how you need to be aware of how the sales process works. So that's where Sally comes in. Her job was she was a very highly professionally trained salesperson. And when Billy meets Sally, I keep going to the credit offer. The credit offer is a big part of this. So I'm going to put that on hold for a minute and try to go back and tell you a little bit about Sally. I'll just tell you about Sally. So when Billy meets Sally, Sally's first objective is, if you're Sally, what do you think your first objective is? You work at Firestone, you're a service manager, you get paid commission for what you sell. Did you know that? Did you know that's how Sally got paid at Firestone or Goodyear or Sears or not Walmart, but so she gets paid commission. So what does that mean? When she meets Billy with his coupon, is she pretty excited to see Billy with his coupon? What do you think? No. And so Sally starts to tell Billy how he could really transform his pickup truck. Right? He could take that pickup truck. I wish I just had a picture of the pickup truck. And he could turn that pickup truck into something much more than what it is right now. It's a nice pickup truck, blue. It's in great shape. He came in to get tires, but she sells him on better tires. Tires that are going to give the vehicle a taller look. And then what do you think she does next? What do you think she sells Billy next? In addition to his tires, what do you think she sells him next? Or suggests? Wheels, rims. Yeah, she says, you could take your pickup truck and not just get those are, those tires will work. Yeah, Billy, she says, those tires are fine, but look at these tires. Just think, Billy, what that would do to your truck, right? I mean, it was going to change the look of his truck. What's she really telling Billy? Spend more money because what? What is she promising will happen for Billy if he spends more money? Yeah, he'll look good. He will look good. The truck will look good, which really is, Billy, you're going to look good. And I don't know if you guys noticed in the picture, but Sally was somewhat attractive. And Billy noticed that, I noticed that, and then, they seemed to have this little spark of interest that went beyond just the truck, but the truck was the catalyst, okay? And this was a professional at work. And it was pretty interesting for me to watch because Billy went from this guy with a coupon to a guy who's considering everything Sally is recommending or suggesting. So the tires went from the cheap tires to the more expensive tires and the rims. And then there was this little thing that really was pretty relatively inexpensive, which was a lift kit, which made the truck sit up taller so that the wheels and the tires really, really popped, right? So that's the story. That's the story. And then I happened to be there when I ran into Billy when I picked my car up. He had an estimate. The mechanic had taken the truck in, checked it out. And one of the things, and I totally agreed with this, because again, Sally's job is to have the mechanics look at the truck. They're going to do a little work on it. They're going to put new tires, new rims. So one of the things you may not know, but I do know because I was a master mechanic, is this. And you should know this. If you're buying new tires for your vehicle, you want to make sure that the alignment is correct. So, do you know what an alignment is? A tire alignment? Aiden, how would you describe a tire alignment?
Well, they normally use lasers, and they'll put like a thing on the wheel, and they'll shine a laser on it to make sure that the wheels are aligned with each other. They're actually supposed to be slightly inward normally.
Yep. So Aiden's giving a description of how when you get an alignment, they use lasers. They use these measuring mechanisms, usually light lasers, that can tell exactly. So they attach this thing to the wheel, and the lights will point an angle, and then you can measure the angles. And Aiden said usually the wheels should be pointing in a little bit, which is true, unless it's a front-wheel drive car, and then maybe it's the opposite. But there are basically three angles in an alignment. There's toe, which is what you're talking about. That means the wheels are pointing, the toe, they're either pointing in or they're pointing out. If they're pointing in too much, what's going to happen to your tires? They're going to wear out. And you can feel it, you can see it. If they're pointed in too much, they're going to wear on the outside. And if you run your hand across it, you're going to feel feathering. It's going to wear out, eat your tires if they're towed in too much. So in an alignment, they make sure that it's towed correctly according to the manufacturer specifications. The other angle is camber. That's when you're looking at the wheels straight up and down, and you're just looking at the front of the vehicle, and it's camber out, camber in. What happens to your tires if they're way too cambered in, or one of them has too much camber in? It's going to wear out on the inside. Your tires will get eaten up if they're out of alignment. How do they get out of alignment, you might ask? Curb, potholes, hitting things, going off-road. The other one is caster. So think about a shopping cart. You know what a shopping cart is at the store? See how the wheels are castered, like they're bent way back, it looks like? That's caster. It's like the angle of the wheel. If you think of a motorcycle, a chopper, that's positive caster. And that is a very interesting angle, but that's something that will make a vehicle pull. If you want it to pull to the left, you give it negative caster and it will pull to the left. If it's got too much caster, what will the wheel do? It'll go like this. It'll vibrate like crazy. You've seen that in a shopping cart before, right? Where it's just going, it's because it's bent. It's got too much caster. So Sally sold Billy an alignment. But there was something else that Sally had to sell Billy, because when the mechanic checked out the vehicle, he found some loose parts. And so the loose parts had to be replaced in order for that alignment to be tight. Because you could set the alignment, but if you got loose parts, what's going to happen? It's going to be flopping around. So tie rods, ball joints, So Sally came to Billy and she said, Billy, I got good news and I got bad news. I got some really good news and some not so good news. What do you think the good news was?
Like the deal on the tires.
Well, the tires are in stock, so that's good news. The tires are in stock. The wheels are in stock. That's good news. The other good news is we can install them right now, Billy. That's good news. The bad news is she did like a sandwich, which again is a wonderful professional sales approach. She did the sandwich thing, She did the good, the bad, and then some more good. And the good was the tires are in stock, the wheels are in stock, the valve stems that we're going to replace, they're in stock. We can do it right now. The bad news is, because we're doing all that other work, which the good news is we can do all of this right now. Mechanic is waiting. But the problem is, if we do the alignment on your truck the way it is right now, it's not going to hold. It's not going to work. And you're getting a lifetime guarantee on the alignment and on the wheel balance, but your tires are going to wear out if we don't align it. And we can't align it unless we fix it. And so it's going to cost you a little more. But the good news is we can take care of this all today. Leave the truck. It'll be ready by 5 o'clock. And you don't even have to worry about making a payment because we have already pre-approved you for our credit card. So good news, bad news, more good news. And the credit offer was the really good news for Billy because he came in without, he had saved up $600 for the tires. He was ready to pay cash. But once he started to dream a little bit about how incredibly transformational this experience could be for Billy with the new look on the truck and really the whole new Billy, he didn't have that kind of cash in his checking account. So the fact that he was going to get a credit card offer was a pretty good thing. So I'm going to pause for a minute and let that sink in. That story, Billy and Sally, it's just getting started, but that story is what we're going to focus on today. And so I don't know if you guys have picked up, but during the conversation with Billy and Sally, a couple of things were happening, right? Billy and Sally were becoming like buddies. And so, as you can imagine, they, got each other's phone numbers and they started to date. And before long, Billy wasn't living at home anymore. Sally wanted him to get his own place. And so that's how the story progresses. But you don't know the whole story because you didn't get to know Billy and become friends with Billy. And so I'm going to tell you the rest of the story today. I'm going to tell you the story about how this whole transaction unfolded. But more than that, I'm going to tell you how it worked out moving forward. But you have to understand part of the dynamic in anyone's life is, the relationships that you have. And Sally and Billy, their relationship expanded from a professional transaction to one where they were actually living together. And eventually, as you can see in that last picture, they went into the family mode. So I want to remind you about caveat emptor, buyer beware, consumer beware. This term is built into pretty much every industry. Dave Ramsey was a real estate guy, so he basically he would teach this. He still teaches this, and this is what he says: let the buyer beware. It came from the fact that the seller usually pays the real estate. Dave Ramsey's a real estate guy. The seller usually pays the real estate commission. Since the seller is paying the agents, the buyer technically has no representation, so he should beware. So just an interesting idea. It's part of today's lesson, buyer beware. But instead of real estate, what I want you to think about and be aware of is the credit transaction. So we talked last week, I think for a couple of weeks, we've talked about the fact that you guys are the target. Okay, it's on, and this whole idea of being responsible for this product called credit, that's on you. It's not anybody else's job for you to be aware of how it works. Some people think the government should be more active. Like at the end of today's lesson, you're probably going to be thinking that should be illegal. That's what I thought when I saw how I was duped, how I was taken advantage of by my credit card experience. My wife showed me, because I think I told you that story last week. We were paying the minimums. We had bought a lot of things on credit. I had bought a lot of things on credit, a TV, a dining room set, furniture. Every time I wanted something, I'd just go buy it, and the credit was so easy, but we were paying minimums, and my wife sat me down and she showed me the truth, and it was really ugly, that we were going to be in debt forever. So that's what I'm going to teach you today. That's what this story's all about. But the point is that it's on you. The target is on you. And so you are a target, and I want to help you overcome. I want to help you guys understand how it works so you can avoid it. So let's spend a few minutes and get smart. I want you to know this, that in addition to, so credit is a product, but no matter what product you think of, marketing is one of the biggest investments. It's why we have Google and Facebook and Twitter. That's why those companies are trading at the level they are, because they do advertising. So marketing. It's millions of dollars, probably billions every day is spent on marketing. And they want to take advantage of consumers. You are a consumer. The big target is on you. Consumers are typically, like I was when I was your age, kind of lazy. We just want stuff. Ignorant. I had no idea how it worked. Like some of you have no idea how it works. But they learn, just like Sally did, to take advantage of your hopes and your dreams and your fears. And the other thing is, marketing, they're really good at every level. They're really good, but the way that they sell you, one of the ways is personal selling. And any of you marketing majors? No one in this room? You are? So how do people get sold? How does marketing work? Is it?
Sort of break up
break out consumers into segments. That's marketing, right? You're not, so is marketing different than selling in the same category? But it is different, right? I mean, I spend money on marketing and I learn how to do sales. Like, it's important to have a good sales process, but marketing is what, the way I think of it is, marketing is what I do as a business owner to get people to call me. And once they call me, selling is what I do to get their business. And so I'm not a marketing major, but I've been in the business for a long time. And marketing is different than selling. But what Sally did was, as a professional salesperson, she was very effective at getting Billy to go from the coupon to the full meal deal. And so personal selling is something I want you to be aware of. And it's part of being aware as a consumer of just how it works. Online marketing is, again, it's a different part of the process, but it's important for you to know that as having a target, you're getting hit on all the time. Do you guys know what YOLO is? You only live once. And FOMO? Fear of missing out. So, Sally basically, she sold Billy on the idea of looking good, right? And she was really good at that. So personal selling is something that happens in a one-on-one situation like Sally and Billy. And it's done by a salesperson, and it's how you get sold. It's one of the ways you get sold. And having been in this business all my life, the business of selling, I know that companies spend a lot of money. I told you last week about my experience at Morgan Stanley. Well, I didn't tell you about State Farm. When I became a State Farm agent, State Farm spent over $100,000 training me. Can you imagine? They wanted me to know how to sell their products. For 6 full months, I was in training full time. They paid my salary. They paid my benefits. They paid for my trainers. They paid for my condo. They paid for my car. They paid everything for 6 full months before I ever even sold a policy. And then for the first year after that, they paid all of my office expenses. They invested more than $100,000 helping me become a State Farm agent. And when I went to Morgan Stanley, it was no different. I mean, I didn't live in a condo. I lived in my house for the 3 years that I was in their training program. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying that's how it works. So you should know that when you get in front of a salesperson who's trying to sell you something, they have been trained. They're not just randomly having a conversation with you. And whether you think, like, the better they are, the more natural it's going to feel, right? But they're very trained in everything they say, everything they do, even a lot of times what they wear. And probably the part that's most compelling is the offer. Like, the way that Sally crafted the offer for Billy made it so easy for him to say yes. So easy to say yes, and so, like, he'd have to be an idiot not to. It was just too good. It sounded too good to be true. And we'll get into that in just a minute. And that's kind of how it works. And usually these unbelievable offers, almost always these unbelievable offers, have this one thing attached to them, which is credit. Credit is what makes it all work. So that's why credit is the focus of this consumer awareness lecture, this lesson that you're going to, in your homework assignment as well. So credit and the unbelievable offers. Here are some of the components of these unbelievable offers. And these components were part of Billy's offer, or Sally's offer to Billy. 90 days. Do you guys know what 90 days same as cash is? What do you think that means? 90 days same as cash. Anyone in Zoom, you want to tell me what 90 days same as cash? Surely you know what that means. I'm going to take a sip of water and let you think about it. So Billy's deal was 6 months. same as cash. Firestone's credit offer included 6 months, same as cash. Nobody knows what that means. What was that?
The interest not being attached until.
So yeah, no interest. In this case, 90 days, same as cash, probably an offer you've seen. For Billy, it was 6 months, same as cash. So that means at 6 months, up until 6 months, if Billy pays off his balance, or if you paid off your balance, it's exactly the same as if you paid cash for the deal. Now, in Billy's case, what was kind of interesting is Billy was thinking, I'm living at home. I'm making really good money. In 6 months, I could easily sock away enough money to pay this bill, and I won't pay any interest, which is what Billy was thinking. So no finance charges for 6 months, low monthly payment. Does the low monthly payment have anything to do with 6 months or 90 days, same as cash? No, because you're not making a payment for 6 months, but when you do start making a payment, you're going to have a low monthly payment. An attractive interest rate, whatever that means, and instant approval, which is what Sally offered. All of her offer included those components. You see how that works? That's the big kind of attraction, is makes it easy, makes it fast. So you got to know that credit card companies, even though we're talking about a product and service package that was sold through Firestone for Billy's F-150, without the credit card company, this amazing deal wouldn't have happened, right? And so the credit is part of the product here. And so credit card companies are driven, every credit card company, whether it's the Firestone credit card company, Visa, Chase, whoever it is, the bottom line is they want to make you their customer for life. And I'm going to show you how it works, and you'll see how it works, and hopefully you'll be aware of why you don't want to become a customer for life in some of these loans. And the big idea is they're selling credit. Credit was what Sally had to sell Billy to make this deal work. And it's a product. It's not a privilege. It feels like a privilege it felt like a privilege to me when I could buy that TV and with nothing down and no payments for 6 months. That's exactly how my TV worked when I bought my TV back before my wife showed me how it all worked. Is I bought it 6 months, same as cash. I didn't have to make a payment for 6 months. So the part that was interesting to me is, now looking back, I bought the TV and I didn't have to make a payment. So it was really easy then to buy the dining room furniture. And again, 6 months, I didn't have to make a payment. So it's really easy to go and buy the living room furniture. Again, 6 months. It was the same company, by the way, that was selling me all this stuff. It was rent to own, and it was just too good to be true, and I kept buying stuff. Well, it's not that good a deal. And I'm going to show you why. That easier credit, just like Billy, just like me, more than 70% of the time when people do this buy on 90 days, same as cash, 6 months, same as cash, they think they're going to pay it off, but they don't. And they end up spending a lot more than they planned and a lot more than they expected to. And that's what we're going to talk about. And then it gets not so easy. Your credit gets not so easy. Like, have any of you ever missed a payment on a credit card? No? Yeah? Do you know what happened after that? So your credit score drops. And what happens when your credit score drops to your other credit? So start paying attention to this. But when your credit score drops, the next thing you buy is going to be higher interest rate, typically, if your credit score drops. But what happens with the specific creditor that you missed a payment or you're late on a payment, usually they will be able to raise the interest on your credit. It's in the fine print, and they don't send you an email to notify you. It just happens. And so you need to pay attention to that. If you miss a payment, doing your credit report is not really going to tell you that your interest rate went up on that credit card. You're going to have to look at your statement and see, and we're going to do a little bit of that today just so that you can see how that works. So again, these are just some things you need to think about. The low payment may go up if you miss, and how much interest you pay pretty much guaranteed that's going to go up. But at the end of the 6 months, same as cash, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to look at that, because it's at the end of the 6 months, if you don't pay it all off, we're going to talk about what happens at the end of the 6 months. So here's what I want to really dive into now. We're going to unpack this transaction for Billy on his pickup truck. We're going to unpack it, and I'm going to show you what happens to his balance. And this is something that I want you guys just to start paying attention to on all of your credit cards, all of your credit. If you have any credit and you're paying, I want you to pay attention to this as we go through this. The math, by the way, that I'm going to use today is very simple. So it may not be completely accurate, because when you start to calculate your credit cards, you're going to find that it could be quarterly, it could be annual, semi-annual, daily. The compounding is going to be different on different credit cards. And so the way you calculate that is significantly more complex than what I'm going to do today. I'm just doing this today to show you how it works. And it works the same way. It may work more aggressively or more conservatively on your credit balances, but we're going to jump right in and talk about Billy. So it's a story about a boy with a truck, and a truck and a sale and a date and a family buried in debt. Because as you may not know, or you may know by now, Sally and Billy get together, they move in, they end up getting married, they have kids, and they do the same thing I did when I got married and had kids. They spent a lot of money and they used a lot of credit. And so I've built, it's obviously Billy and Sally. Their names are changed to protect the innocent, but it's their story and it's their financial plan that we've built for you to see. But again, I changed enough information so even if Billy and Sally saw it, they wouldn't know it's them. But it's a very typical plan, and you're going to see how it works, because you're going to build your own financial plan. And along the way, throughout the semester, I'm going to use Billy and Sally as an example to show you how these debt payment strategies work. So remember the 7 baby steps that we learned? One of them was the snowball to pay off your debt, right? And did we talk about the snowball effect? If we didn't, we will some more. But you're going to see how that works in a real live financial plan. Not this week, but next week. This week, you're going to do like Billy. You're going to go spend some money on a credit card. You're going to go buy a house, and you're going to buy a car. That's your assignment this week, is you're going to rack up some debt. You haven't done that yet, right? So you're going to do that. I'm going to have to make some edits to your financial planning portal so you have access to the information, the data cards that you're going to need to do this week's assignment. But you're just going to go out and spend money, pretend money, but you're going to do a little research, figure out how much money will you be making if you got the job that you hope to get when you graduate. And then based on that income, you're going to have to do a little more research to figure out how much can you afford, or should you afford, to purchase a house. Where are you going to buy that house? What kind of interest are you going to have? What kind of mortgage are you going to have? 30-year, 15-year? You get to do the research and figure out what you want to do based on the income that you're hoping to have when you graduate. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to buy a car. You're going to buy the car that you really want to buy. You're going to spend whatever it takes. You're going to do a little research and find out where you can get that car and how much it's going to cost. Later in the semester, you're going to do an insurance quote for that car. But this week, you're just buying the car, you're buying the house, and you're going to go have a party on your credit card and rack up at least $10,000 in credit card debt. And then once you've got those debts in place in your plan, next week, I'm going to teach you how these debt payment strategies work so that you can be smart enough to know how that snowball effect works in an actual financial plan. And even though this actual financial plan will be based on some hypotheticals, some imaginary spending on your part, you'll still get to see exactly how the strategies work. Is that a question or a yawn? A yawn, okay. So again, we'll use Billy and Sally's plan to kind of illustrate. So let's go back to the big offer. It started out, Billy had a coupon. He was going to be able to buy tires for $575. That's not really, so just like most coupons, it's going to say, here's how much you can buy the tires for, but then there's tax, and then there's balancing, and then there's disposing of the tires, and then there's valve stems, all that. By the time he would have added all that, it would have easily been $800, just like, but this was years ago. $800 for 4 tires for a F-150 pickup truck would be a pretty good deal, $200 a tire. But the coupon value was $575. Billy thought he was going to come in and spend $575, but instead, Sally sells him the full meal deal. What did that involve? New wheels, nuts and bolts, repairs to his truck, a lifetime alignment that required some other things to be done. And what was that? Yeah, the lift kit. She sold him some fancy tires, the awesome rims. I didn't include the lift kit, but that changed the profile of the pickup truck. It made it look better. It made Billy look better. So again, Sally continues to sell. She had to sell repairs to the suspension so that the alignment would work, tie rod ends, ball joints, and always easy credit. That's always in the back. That's always what made this deal work. She sold him a lifetime balance. Doesn't that sound good? We're going to balance your tires, and we're going to keep them in balance for life, for as long as you own them. But they're only going to last 30,000 miles, but nonetheless, it's a lifetime balance, and rotate, and road warranty, and new valve stems, and again, the awesome credit deal. And what was Sally really promising Billy? What was she really selling Billy? Yeah, do you get that? I mean, isn't that really, when you look at how marketing works, marketers are always trying to sell you on the idea that you can look good, not look bad. And I just want to remind you guys that whole looking good thing, it's a very expensive lifestyle. And it can just keep going and going and going. And so don't fall for that. But that's really part of the dynamic that Sally used to get Billy to say yes to this deal. And she made it easy, she made it fast, painless, and obviously affordable, right? How did she make it affordable? Did we talk about the cost yet? Here's the offer. There's no money down, no payment for 6 months. It was a low monthly payment, low interest rate, and instant approval. So Sally laid that all out for Billy in a way that Billy couldn't resist. Start his whole full meal deal, by the way, $3,500. Is that what you would have guessed for all that stuff? Does that sound like a lot? Does it sound ridiculous? Really? How many of you have had your pickup truck transformed? It sounds like a lot. The interest rate on this credit, what do you think would be a reasonable interest rate on a credit card? Think 14's high or low?
I'd say it's
High?
high.
12, 15, ballpark.
I have a person who's very close to me who purchased a new vehicle this week. And do you know what they paid for their interest on the new vehicle? A new vehicle. No, it wasn't new. It was used. This is 2019. A new to them. If you bought a 2019 vehicle, how much do you think you should pay in interest on the loan? It's a 2-year loan. It's a pretty short loan. If you get a shorter loan, should it be more interest or less? More?
2 months, not shorter.
48-month loan, 2-year loan, 14%, just same as Billy on his credit. Usually credit cards are higher than car loans. Car loans usually are a little bit lower, but this person who's very close to me just bought this car and 14% interest. Obviously has some trouble with their credit, but it is what it is. So this is actually 14% on this type of credit account is not outrageous. It's not outrageous at all. I don't know what you think. Anyone on Zoom have any? Jose says 5.5% interest on a used vehicle. That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty decent on a new vehicle. And so usually the factory, if you buy a new vehicle, they'll finance it for 6 years at a much lower interest rate because they're getting 6 years of interest. But on a used car, they're usually shorter. Anyway, back to Billy. So what do you think so far? $3,500, 14% minimum payments. What do you think about those minimum payments?
They're just trying to make them pay interest.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. It's a crazy low interest, but $3,500 a month, that's not unreasonable. So obviously Billy met Sally. Sally and Billy started to date. Things in Billy's life changed dramatically, right? He started having all these new expenditures, the apartment, the parties, Sally flowers on Valentine's Day, the dates, the nightclubs, the friends, the trips, all the things that come with life, right? And so Billy, his plan to pay this off at the end of 6 months kind of got put on the back burner. So now it's 6 months later, and here's what it looks like. So 14% on $3,500, just so you know, if you took out a calculator and you multiplied $3,500 by 14%, you'd come up with the annual amount of interest, which would be, if I did my math right, feel free to check my math, but 14% of $3,500 would be $490. But Billy had 6 months, right? 6 months, same as cash. So what happens at the end of the 6 months? Does he have any interest on his loan? I see some heads saying no. You think no? At the end of 6 months, he has no interest on his loan? So 5 months and 29 days, he has no interest on his loan. But what happens at 6 months? Not only do they start charging him interest on his loan, but they actually charge him interest on all 6 months because that's what makes it same as cash. You have 6 months to pay it off, and it's same as cash. But most people, we remember the statistic, 70% of folks don't do that. I think it's probably more than 70%, but in this case, it doesn't matter what the percentage is. Billy didn't do it. He didn't pay it off. So at the end of 6 months, what happens with your 6 months same as cash deal? It gets applied, the whole 6 months of credit. That's why I show these calculations, because 12 months of interest would be $490, but it's only 6 months of interest. So now the balance goes from $3,500, you add the 6 months of interest, and now our new balance should be with the 6 months interest. Instead of $3,500, it's $3,745. And now we're getting ready to talk about the July payment. So this thing started in January. It was January that I met Billy. It was January that I started teaching this course. January of 2012, actually. So that's when I was getting my car worked on. That's when I met Billy. It was January when he signed that deal and did the deal. It was after he got that truck for himself for Christmas, and it was January that he was shopping for the tires because that used truck needed tires, blah, blah, blah. So January is when the clock starts ticking on the 6 months. Now we're going to look at what happens in July. So remember, we did the 6 months, the interest gets applied for the whole 6 months, and now we're ready for the July payment, which is based on the new balance of $3,745 plus the interest for the month. How much interest? So it's 14%. So if you multiplied $3,745 by 14%, what would you have to do next? divide it by 12. And that's where you get see how simple my math is? And again, that wouldn't work on your credit card because they're doing compounding and it's a different calculation. It's more complex. But just simple, super simple math shows you that this credit, this balance for Billy is costing him $43.69 per month for interest, just interest. And so now we're ready for the July payment. So the first payment comes in July. The new balance before the payment is $37.88.69. That's the balance plus the interest for that month, which is a total of $37.88.69. How much does Billy have to pay? $25. So hopefully by now you're already seeing how this scam works. But if you didn't, let's just keep going. So then we get to after the July payment, so we have a new balance after the $25 payment is $37.63.69. What do you think happens next for August? You take that balance, the new balance, which we just said was $37.63.69. We add the new monthly interest, which is the interest on $37.63, which is $43.90. And that gives us a new balance before the payment of $38.07.59. You could put this on a spreadsheet and make it really clear, but just follow. We're going to do a few months of payments here just so you can see how this works. And now it's $38.07. We started out $3,500. We went 6 months, bam, we got hit with the interest. We're getting hit with interest every month, and we're paying what they asked Billy to pay, which is the minimum of $25 a month. And so now let's see what happens after the August payment. After he makes the payment of $25, he has a new balance, just like you would. After the payment, the balance is $3,782.59. And what do you think is going to happen in September? So we could just rinse, wash, and repeat, and we could keep doing this, and we could see the totals. But here's what happened. Billy and Sally, they were having so much fun that Billy kind of forgot to make the payment. I would think it was a Super Bowl thing, maybe. No, it was September. Couldn't have been the Super Bowl. There was some party involved, and Billy got a little distracted. He didn't make the payment. So the new balance in September, $37.82. The new monthly interest, $44.13. The new balance before the payment, $38.26.72. But what happened in September is Billy didn't make the payment. So he makes no payment. The interest automatically goes to 24. He doesn't get an email. He doesn't get a notification. It just goes to 24. So that's on the new balance. So his new balance is $38.26.72. Now they're going to apply interest. Instead of 14%, they're going to apply 24%. So now his October payment looks like this. It's last month's interest from the missed payment, $76.53. And the new balance then would be $39.03. And then, if I'm correct, they're going to actually do what next? So the new balance, $39.03.23. Now another month has gone by, so they have a new monthly interest. Remember, that other interest was just for September. Now this is the October interest of $78.06. And so now the new balance is $39.81.31. Does that seem ridiculous? Does it seem outrageous? Does it seem like it should be illegal? I mean, think about it. Now, remember, at this point, Billy and Sally, they don't just have Billy's Firestone credit. Kenneth, did you have a question? I guess not. So remember, they don't just have this one credit account. They have accumulated some others. Imagine if 6 or 7 of their investments were working like this one. Do you think that's crazy that people would actually live this way? I was doing it until my wife showed me how crazy it was. And she showed me exactly this. We took a piece of paper and we started doing the math on each of our different accounts. And by the time she finished showing me, I felt so stupid. I felt like I'd really been duped, and I was, what do you think? Fill in the blank. How did I feel? I was angry. Kenneth, it looks like you're wanting to say something, but maybe not. So at this point, after the October payment, $39.56 is Billy's balance. His original balance was $3,500. I keep hearing somebody try to share something on Zoom, but I'm not seeing. Kenneth, maybe you should. It looks like you are. I'm going to mute you, buddy. Okay, I muted you, Kenneth. Nothing personal. You can unmute yourself if you have something to say. So that's it. Billy's original balance was $3,500. Started with 14%, minimum payment of $25, and that minimum payment of $25 just made him an indentured customer for life. Like he's always going to owe. He's never going to get out of debt. And after 4 months of paying the minimum, his balance went from $3,500 to $39. Now that's only $456. Like that's not life changing, right? In 4 months. And really, you could say that's after 10 months. 10 months. So if I'm Billy, I could say, look, I've had my truck. I've been driving it like this new ride for 10 months. And I've only paid $25 a month, and I missed one. So basically, how much have I spent out of my pocket to do this? It's like not much, $150, right? Not even that. Yes? Kenneth, you're back. Did you want to say something, Kenneth? No problem. I muted you. Now you're muted again. So no problem. Thanks, man. So if you're Billy, it's easy to say, yeah, but I never felt it, right? He never felt it was painless. It's, in fact, he could say, look, I've only spent how much? Hardly nothing. And I've had these benefits all this time. That's how it works. So, Billy has a point. Easy credit has a way of infecting your life and making you think it's all good, right? But is it all good? I mean, at some point, where does this end? It's like the United States government with $30 trillion, almost $30 trillion of debt. It's like we just keep printing money. Where does it end? I mean, if you're a consumer, though, if you're Billy, if you're you, if you're me, at some point you have to ask yourself the question, where does this end? For many people, it ends in bankruptcy court. It's like, okay, this is my get out of jail free card. I'm just going to file bankruptcy and eliminate all of my debt. I mean, a whole lot of people, that's their plan. I hope that's not your plan. There's a better plan. It's to do it the other way. Like Billy started out doing it, save your money, have the cash, go spend the money, and then save your money, invest your money, grow your wealth, and be in a situation where instead of being buried in debt, you actually have money set aside and available for whatever you need, like retirement. So that's the lesson. And caveat, emptor, buyer beware. This Billy and Sally's story. I hope it helps you guys understand what I didn't really understand until my wife made me understand, that every time I spent money on a credit card, I was going further and further in debt. And I didn't feel it, just like Billy didn't feel it, and you may not feel it, but at the end of the day, it's there. It's debt, and it grows and it mounts and it becomes more and more, and it's it can become a vicious cycle, and then you have to figure out a way out. So I would encourage you to start out with a game plan for the way out, which is don't get into that trap. don't let that become, a vice in your life where you're buying stuff that you don't really have to have. Like, did Billy have to have tires? He did have to have tires. Did he have to have the lift kit? Did he have to have the new wheels, the more expensive tires? He did need the alignment. I mean, at the end of the day, that truck was a good deal, and he could have. I told Billy, man, we can do those. I can help you fix it. Just bring it over to the house. We'll throw on some parts. But we didn't do that. So the point is, you're going to have some things that you need, some things that you want, and some things you wish for, but you got to prioritize. And easy credit makes it super easy for you to never have to prioritize. You can have it all. And so beware of that. It's a trap. Any questions?
Yeah, so do you think there's a good time to, like, when a store offers a credit card, do you think it's, like, a good thing to, like, accept that? Because I know my mom, she has a Kohl's credit card, and I think she always pays it off on time, and they give her, like, discounts, cash back, and all that stuff.
So that's a good question. Your mom has a Kohl's credit card. I like Kohl's. It's one of my favorite stores. I mean, they have good quality stuff at a really good price, and they're all over the place for us. There's a store in the mall that I go to, and yada, yada. So should you have a credit card with that store? I mean, it's a personal preference, but here's what I would say to you as students is, if you have credit cards, those credit cards are just easy to lay down and use. Instead of having a credit card at all these different stores, I would just have one. I would have a good Visa card, and I would pay attention to it. I would pay attention to the balance, and I would pay it off every month. I can use my Visa card at Kohl's. I don't have to have a Kohl's credit card. With a Kohl's credit card, or a Firestone credit card, or you name it, I'm going to be getting all these additional ads. I'm giving them information about me. It's like every time you open a credit card, you give that company information about you so that they can do what? Sell you stuff. So that's why I would encourage you to be very careful about which credit cards you open. And I would say, don't open additional credit cards. Have one that makes sense. For example, if you could see my phone, you can't see my phone, but it's also a wallet. And in my phone, there are two credit cards. One of them is Wells Fargo Cash, pays 2%. So if I spend, and this may sound crazy, but I'll spend $100,000 a year on that credit card. So how much cash back will I get from Wells Fargo? 2,000. This is 2%. So, I mean, they're paying me to use their credit card. I pay it off every month, but I have business expenses that are just recurring, rent, subscriptions for software for my investment business. Plus I spend a lot of money at Apple. I mean, it's maybe an addiction. Maybe. Spend a lot of money at Amazon. Again, possibly. I buy a lot of stuff. Most of it I get to write off on my business taxes because it's expenses for my business. Oh, I hope I'm not being watched. I hope this isn't going out on the internet. Anyway, my point is, I use that credit card because it has a benefit. The other credit card I use is a Chase, a rewards card that's linked to Southwest Airlines. So I get all these points. I got like 150,000 points, I believe, when I got this card a few years ago. That means they gave me 150,000 points that I could use towards air travel. Today I have about 300,000 points. So whenever I travel, I live right down the street from Hobby, which is a main hub for Southwest. So it makes sense to me to use that card for that purpose. If I had a Kohl's card, when I went to Kohl's, I'd probably use the Kohl's card if I remembered, but then I'd have to carry that card around with me. Well, my phone will only hold 4 cards. My license, my access card to U of H, and 2 credit cards. Actually, it holds 5. I have a Costco card in there too. but I have to really squeeze that one in. So you had a question?
But like, what if like that store is offering you like discounts, coupons, cashback?
Yeah. So let me just tell you a quick story. When I was like a kid, I heard somebody tell this joke, and maybe it was a cartoon strip. I'm not sure, but it was basically this woman, somewhat overweight with bodily features that were recognizable to men, but she was standing on a corner waving down a taxi cab, and she was really upset because she thought the taxi cab was going to pass her by, and she needed in that taxi so she could go to Macy's to get 50% off underwear. So think about that for a second. You guys don't even know what a taxi cab is, do you? Like, that's before Uber. But you paid like $20 for a taxi cab ride to save 75 cents on a brassiere or whatever. It was funny. You had to be there. It was funny. I know I didn't tell it funny, but you see the point. You said, should you get a credit card because they're giving you this offer? And just be careful of the offers. Sometimes you buy stuff you don't need that ends up costing you money that you may not even have because they made you an offer you couldn't resist. But in fact, you could resist it. You really didn't need it. And it probably was an offer that at the end of the day you didn't need. Like maybe they're going to give you additional percentages off what you buy. So that's going to incentivize you to A, get their credit card, and B, buy some of their product. But you don't really need their product. Maybe you do. If you need it, that's a different deal. But my answer would be the fact that they're offering you a special deal to get it is something that should make you go, wait, this is part of the game. This is part of the game. They want you to be their customer for life because credit is the most expensive product most of us will ever own. And that's the way they make it work. But you can be smart. You can get smart real quick, and you can pay that off every month. Every month, pay it off. But if you have 20 cards, that gets a little more challenging. If you have 10 cards, it's more. If you have one card or two cards, it's a lot easier. I have two cards. One of them is supposed to be personal, and one of them is supposed to be business. But since I own my own business and it's all my money, I don't pay as good of attention to that as I should. At the end of the year, I have to figure out which ones are business and which ones aren't. And sometimes one time that I can think of, I needed to pay a big bill, an unusual bill, a big bill, and I went to use my Wells Fargo card and they wouldn't take it because, guess why they wouldn't take it? Say that again? No, it wasn't any. It was just basically, I had used my Wells Fargo credit card and maxed. I only have like 25 grand credit limit, and I didn't realize it, but it was an unusual season, and I'd spent a lot of money, and I exceeded my credit maximum. And then I had this other big expense that was unexpected that I had to pay, and I couldn't use that one, so I used the other one. So that happens. So having two credit cards for me is kind of important. But typically, I'm just saying you don't need to have a whole army of credit cards just because you shop at multiple places. You know, Amazon wants you to have their credit card. Why do you think that is? Apple wants me to have their credit card. Why? What are they willing to offer me to get their credit card? Whatever it is, it's probably not worth it. You know, again, they're competing with a 2% cash back and, you know, Southwest points. And for me, those make sense. So you have to decide for yourself. Okay, any questions? All right. Yes.
Professor, taking more time, but see how that minimum works, like that payment.
You want to see how that minimum works?
Just like, you know how people make because I know a lot of people who make just the minimum payment, but then, seeing it clearly does nothing. I just want to see the math.
Yeah, so if you just remember that every month you're going to have a new balance, right? And then they're going to take that new balance and they're going to add interest to it, which is what they did here, what we did here. And so before you make your payment, you have this new balance with interest for that month. And then you make your payment of $25. So that's the August payment. And then after you pay the $25, your new balance drops $25. But then they turn around and add interest to it. So you have a new balance, which is $25 less than the balance was before you paid the $25, $37.82. But then for the next month, they're going to add interest to that.
Oh, okay, I see. So you have to, like, it's a certain amount that you need to pay in order for that.
Yeah, and every card has a different minimum payment. Like if I open my Wells Fargo, the one that I had, I believe I have a $25,000 credit limit. Even though I have $25,000 on my credit card, do you know what my minimum payment is? What would you guess? What would you guys guess? 1,000?
Maybe 2,000.
2,000 minimum payment? That's not even close. A couple hundred? 25,000. This is true. I mean, this is my credit card. I know what my minimum payment is. I don't ever pay the minimum, but it's $35.
And you should have between what, $2,500 minimum payments, that way you don't pay a lot, and then you do the same thing with people.
Say that again?
Because I remember for the truck that my parents bought for me, I'm very fortunate. It was like $100 minimum payment, and so at that time I was also pissed off once I realized everything.
Yeah.
And I even was looking for the sales agent.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, 3 times Spanish stuff just to.
Yeah.
Speak
It's, I mean, when you look at the math, if I did that with my Wells Fargo credit card, paid the minimum, kept the $25,000 balance, I'm pretty sure the interest on my Wells Fargo card is over 14%. I never pay that. I always pay it off. But if I didn't pay it off, I'd pay 14%. Plus, I could still only pay a $35 minimum. I mean, the example I showed you today with Billy may seem like it's being exaggerated, but it's not. I'm telling you, with my own credit card, I could have done my own credit card example, and it would be like, no way. Yeah, that's how it works. It's like a scam. It seems like it should be illegal, but it's not. So, good question. So that $35 on a $25,000, not $2,000, not $200, $35. That's my minimum with a $25,000.
Where do they come up with like these numbers? Like they just throw any number out there?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know where they come up with the minimums. I'm going to guess that my minimum is very low because I have really good credit because I always pay it off. But I don't know how they come up with the minimums. Like I would assume that if I had really bad credit, I'm going to have a higher interest rate and a higher minimum because they want to balance they want to get their money back. But I don't know. For me, though, it's crazy how low the minimum payments are. Okay, that's it for today. Any questions in Zoom? Okay. I see some great comments, but I don't see questions. So 35 is my minimum and my credit limit is 1,200. Yes, so I think that may be right. You have not as long of a credit history as I have, and so I have a very tiny minimum and a pretty relatively larger credit balance. It could be. I don't know, though. He said maybe it's based on region. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to end this Zoom, and then I'm going to... Okay, Charles, question, shoot. They will be posted from in Blackboard. So essentially, you're going to basically go out and do a little research. You're going to buy a house, you're going to buy a car, and you're going to put some about $10,000 in credit card debt. That's your homework assignment in a nutshell. That will be posted in Blackboard later today. But first, remember, let me re-announce this, that you're not going to be able to do the assignment if you haven't already registered with Bayrock for your financial planning portal, because that has to be already registered when me and my team go in and update your financial plan, giving you access to additional data cards. So make sure you've done that. I know you've done that, right, Charles? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have, but make sure you've done that. Okay, I'm going to shut this down now unless there's another question. Speak now. Okay, we're gone. Going once, going twice, ending.